Excellent. Thank you, Lynn and Tosh online for your patience. We had to switch rooms and get reoriented, but we're here, we're online. Can you guys confirm you can hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Excellent. Tosh, you good?
Sorry, I'm good.
Perfect. Okay. Well, on a slight delay with the agenda, we'll say welcome, everyone. Thanks for your flexibility coming together in this time frame. Quick attendance. Commissioner Montgomery? Here. Commissioner McCullough?
Here.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Dean?
Here.
Commissioner Miller?
Here.
Commissioner Evans here. Commissioner Ortiz?
Here.
Commissioner Anise Osorio?
Here.
And we also have the great fortune of IPA Ibrahim and Mr. Lazarenko. So we have a quorum and we will get started. First order of business, hopefully we all received the previous meeting minutes. Great. Would we move someone? We would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes unless there are any corrections or areas of discussion.
Motion to approve the meeting minutes. Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Wonderful. Unanimous approval. Second item, we have previously approved outside counsel. That was a little bit oriented towards the specific staff who left the firm. To bring this up, but the choice for us was to stay with the firm or rather entertain a motion to approve outside counsel as the lawyer that we interviewed and stipulated would support us for continuity. I would entertain a motion to approve outside counsel retainer agreement.
So I'm sorry, so you're asking if somebody wants to make a motion to stay with the lawyer oh yes. So I'd like to make a motion that we stay with the lawyer that we interviewed outside of the firm that she was in.
Just if
Questions?
Yeah, just a little bit, nothing that is what you're free to share. The reason why moving on from the firm.
Oh, I know.
She started her own law firm.
Okay.
And so she's going to be specializing in this specific type of work, supporting government agencies, particularly oversight agencies and other particularized areas. I believe that there is some, so essentially what we'd be doing is approving a new retainer agreement.
Okay.
With the same counsel, but just under a different firm's name, and the same terms as the previous retainer agreement. So that I believe was emailed out to you all, the new retainer agreement. You all received that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So I believe that there is some specific language that needs to be utilized to pass the motion just to officially adopt that retainer agreement. And I have it here. If one of you all want to make the motion and then one of you can second it. Martina, did you make the motion? Can I share this language with you for you to just read it?
Please,
Sorry for the formality.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's okay.
we
He can make it, just.
Go on.
we partly selected her from originally because of her specific
Okay.
background
And then just someone
in
else
this.
second it.
So we approved her firm.
Right.
She then started her own firm because she is specialized. So that was the only background that you, and I
Yeah,
apologize. shouldn't have-
yeah. It's always good to know why people move on
Yes,
and what they're
right.
moving to, because that talks
Yeah,
about
it
how
was
much
not a
time,
layoff.
right, how much time they'll have for
That's
us.
something.
Starting a new firm is not small at all.
Right.
Okay. But we will be working, we
Okay.
are specifically, she's specifically our attorney record. It's not going to be someone else in her firm now, it's a smaller firm. Okay.
We have this under the same terms, which were our terms under the previous agreement, which was that we didn't want,
Right.
having interviewed and approved her, to
Okay.
get staff with some other firm.
Okay.
So that is part of the same terms of the agreement.
Perfect. Working with her.
Yes.
Correct.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, So I move that the Community Oversight Board engage the services of Epps Hudson as its outside counsel and authorize the board chair and the independent policing auditor to negotiate and execute a contract with Epps Hudson Law for Same.
Question, does that motion have to address the fact that we've approved a prior one and we need to get out of that? And is there anything? No, okay.
I second the motion.
Hearing a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Wonderful.
We got internal counsel. All right.
So that will specifically be helpful as we get into, and we'll get MIU updates now, but partly we have had a pause in being able to access our outside counsel because of this firm change. So that's really helpful in building momentum. Where we have some updates, we'll hear from Mummy on MOU status.
Yes, thanks, Julie. Yeah, so that was important to get done so that we can have outside counsel review the MOU just for purposes of having a specific eye to any legalese that would specifically pertain to you all. And something that I wanted to flag is that you all may want to, once we formalize the retainer agreement, schedule some time to speak with her about how you'll handle closed sessions. That would be something that I'm sure you'll want to figure out in the upcoming weeks as we hopefully close out the MOU and start doing investigations.
Mommy, just real quick, can we highlight again, perhaps this was brought up and I don't remember, but how much, who's paying for it?
It'll be paid for out of our operating budget.
Out of
Technically.
your operating budget
It's
or
a joint-
our,
It's a
we have a
joint
joint
one.
operating budget?
Yeah, we have an operating budget of 100,000 and that's shared between the IPA and the Community Oversight Board.
And within this retainer, these are all the questions that I'm thinking of after the fact, I understand. The retainer, is there a minimum hour?
No.
Or scope, okay, it's just, she's a retainer and she is billed when we ask her for.
That's right.
I understand.
We thought about at first trying to figure out a flat fee, but because we weren't sure how much we were going to utilize her services in the first year, she just negotiated us down to the lowest possible rate that she could give for a government agency. And then I think maybe, after we've used the services for a year, then we can figure out if we know of an approximate number of hours and we can reassess.
Okay.
About how much you did, I don't know if that's too detailed, but how much out of the budget is being allocated to her?
Right now, I'm not sure. I've estimated about 10K for the year, but I have no real way of knowing how often you all are going to use her. So that is
That's all.
a very broad estimate.
Okay.
It could be more, it could be less.
It gives me a transition for later. We might want to add a budget subcommittee just for updates. But before that, MOU update, and then unless we have other questions, which are, well, perfect. Okay, we will get closer to schedule MOU status.
Okay. I will try to keep it brief since I emailed out a more substantive update yesterday. If you haven't had a chance to read it, that's okay, but feel free to read through that. And if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to me or Julie. But the highlight of it and what I wanted to make sure that we shared with the public is that the MOU is not going to be on the March 18th calendar before the county board. They have decided to postpone it and put it on a future agenda, hopefully, in the very near future, as we try to work out some final details around the MOU. Some of the subject matters that we're still just kind of putting the final nuts and bolts around are the internal investigations, how to get access to information related to complaint history or disciplinary records, and then our public reporting structure. So we're still working through that. I think we're very close to getting to the end of it, but we want to, I think the sentiment is that we want to get it right. So that is where we're at with that now. I think as far as everything else that we need for readiness resolution, we've checked that off. So that's the only thing that we have left. And I think right now, as we wait for the MOU to kind of get to a more finalized place, then we should start doing the other work that we've outlined to do as a commission and as an oversight agency. So Julie's gonna talk us through that,
Yes.
unless there's any questions before we.
Well, we're not going to fully transition, just to round that out. This sort of strategic pause aligns well with our anniversary and sort of first annual juncture as a check-in point. I think in individual conversations and as a group, we've talked about, timelines as valuable drivers, but also as a pressure cooker, and trying to make sure that we can all stay aligned towards the, spirit and function of our oversight body, inclusive of our IPA. So we're not as eager to set a new timeline, recognizing that the readiness resolution is a critical component of our organizing and operating activities, but also amongst us, I think we've discussed an eagerness to get into some of the more substantive activities that are independent of or facilitating our oversight duties, specifically outreach. Like getting to outreach, making sure the public knows who we are and that they have access to us and that they can participate in this process is critical to our success. Like transparency of the COB itself is critical to our long-term success. So we are looking for the right strategy to make sure we have alignment across the MOU signatories. Readiness is a priority and our coordination with the police is a priority. But we also don't want to let sort of continuous expectation of agreement supersede our ability to have conversations about the training curriculum, the outreach, communications protocols, other sort of activities that we will want to organize, budget, reviews. We want to make sure that the COB isn't just waiting to do one thing. We're equipped to do that thing well. So that was the purpose of the last meeting's discussion of subcommittees. And we want to get into that and into outreach. But I do want to make sure we have time to address any questions or ideas or comments about this sort of strategic pause and approach moving forward from the group or the public.
Your point is that you most likely we will not have, for example, a meeting in another location until we get a chance to be approved upon and we're ready for our MOU is approved and what is the idea of like changing locations? And we talked a little bit about, part of our community outreach that we would do this during at other locations like schools.
Oh, I don't think those are
centers.
linked at all.
Okay,
I think we
okay.
can do outreach without readiness, recognizing that part of that initial outreach is some education on the background and our goals and priorities and structure.
Gotcha.
I don't think,
Okay.
so that's my point, is that while readiness to do a review is a huge priority, it shouldn't eclipse our efforts to
An
fully
educational
form,
campaign.
right, and then engage the
Yeah.
community in saying, we have concerns, we're interested in, we wanna. So for example, we were talking the other day about the anniversary reception. Is a good opportunity to invite folks to come and meet us or hear about us. We have a draft list of invitees, and we'd like to invite this is, I think, the first meeting where we have no members of the public, but invite suggestions on that, but probably not before the anniversary. We would like to organize an outreach email to known groups who are affiliated with Arlington County to say, we're the COB, here's your direct communication link with us. Let us know, are you interested in just passively receiving updates? Would you like to hear from us directly? Do you have specific concerns? And because the 8 of us are meant to be a cross-section of the community in different ways. Bringing that outreach perspective together does need to be collaborative. I think, part of the annual juncture, we're coming up on a year. I know that readiness is the formal structure way of us being ready to get started. But I would reflect, and I have heard from some of you that, part of this is our operationalizing. What can I do? What can I bring? And so I think the committees are a good way to start doing that. Outreach being the first committee where we have not formally reached out to the community to say, we're here, you can connect with us, how can we help you, how do you want to engage with us, and then create a plan accordingly. So that is one of our identified subcommittees. Now I'm going to ask you to bring up the list of subcommittees just to review from the last meeting, since we had organizational challenges. This was our original list. I think now we've identified 2 additional subcommittees. I'll wait until we can share. Oh, no, you're fine. So 2 things. This is not meant to be a full or final list. The upside of subcommittees is this will give us the organizational flexibility to do what we need to do as new needs arise. So we didn't vote to approve this. It's not done. This was just the needs we had already identified. Commissioner Ortiz pointed out it would be really valuable for us to have a data subcommittee that can organize around how are we going to handle data and what are the associated issues with that. Just now I was thinking we probably want a budget group. So subcommittees are going to give us the flexibility to have, outside of this formal group, pre-organizing capabilities, but nothing formal will happen in those subcommittees outside of this group. So we will set priorities and goals, we'll send them to subcommittee, and then they'll come back to us for review and approval. Since we weren't all here last time, do we have any questions or comments, discussion points around this? Other subcommittees you haven't thought of?
When we say policy review, do we mean policy like police? Okay. Where might we stick in legislative, or do we not care?
Legislative is a great addition.
Yeah, just tracking what's happening in the Virginia legislature. And I think they shared a while ago that database,
Yes.
that shows all the different related legislation that's happening around the country. I mean, I don't know exactly what that group would do, but
Yeah.
I think it would be useful to track it a little bit and know what's going on.
That's very helpful. So today I want to initialize the COB outreach committee interest. We all know this is a big time commitment and it's recurring. We could do all of the committee formations today, but I would rather sort of do them on an as there is a use case need basis. I think, training is waiting in the wings for if we want to put in the MOU that we'll have an annual training curriculum. We have some distinguishing questions. So I think we want to put these in a queue and manage them. I don't mean for that to push anything out, but to give us some prioritization. So first, I would say looking at these, thinking about actually policy review. I don't remember why I put it first, but except that it is part of our specific duty. Aside from incident reviews, right? We are generally, and I think the policy review subcommittee would not necessarily review policies, but help to sort of craft the operational process that we're going to use. So when we talk, for example, about internal or external or whatever complaints, let's say you have 10 or 100. The way you handle 10 complaints is different than the way we handle 100 complaints amongst a group of 8. So the policy review committee could do a couple of things. For example, they could organize background information on a specific policy to give us all materials and a sort of base starting point. and/or they can help us organize what is the right way for us to process that data so that we have a focused policy review outcome, not to do that on behalf of the group. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, it would be helpful to have someone managing, I mean, outside of course, Mummy and Ian are doing that, but maybe there's a conversation about having a committee review the intake process. I mean, that's a very important functional piece of our work, and perhaps that's outside of communication. I mean, everything has a nexus, but knowing that it's a very critical point it'd be pretty helpful to ensure that we are as clear as possible on where we're at on intake and what are coming in and how they're coming in and who's communicating and following up.
So outreach is, hearing you say that.
Yeah.
Outreach
That's part of outreach.
outreach is another good place to start because outreach probably has the least intersection with the MOU, right? Like our ability to conduct outreach and collect complaints is sort of separate from our processing of police data and or other policy reviews. It's also what, from my sentiment of group conversation, we are the most eager to do that we haven't done yet.
The other thing about outreach is I feel like when we start doing outreach, there may be other issues that emerge from the outreach, or like this is an issue we really want to track. Like I'm interested in juvenile interactions with the police, and I'm sure some of us are interested in mental health, how that sort of interfaces with how the police. So, we could keep unpacking this forever, but I think that one of the useful things about outreach is we'll hear from people where are they at and where are their priorities, and maybe it'll help us to figure out where we want to. So yes, I think outreach is very much the place to
Start. Okay,
Julie, I have one
Jerry.
thing. So in outreach initially, we started talking about this months ago. I feel like that this committee of all committees to start out with, I think we all should join on this one, and here's why. I mean, I'm talking about the group, because we each come from a different part of the county. And I think as we build this thing, whether it's the youth, whether it's, I've got some interest in the church in my community, but I think we can get this built right if we get maximum reach from the community we live in, so that every place is touched by each of us. And then once we get this kind of rolling, maybe it can, back off to a standard committee where there might be, say, 3 people or 4 people, policy might be 3. But I think this one, I think we should be open to everybody kind of bringing their piece of Arlington into this.
I think that's a really important point, and it ties into twofold. One, the process of the committee operations I've glossed over, and I think we want to have consensus on. But because we don't want to take any decision out of the general board opportunity, I think what we will do to initialize committees is like this. We've got a list of probably what we will initiate next, and not in order there, but we initialize this here. We say these are our goals, and we're going to talk about that next. I've got 15 minutes left for this item, but what are our goals and what's everyone's input so that you don't have to participate in the subcommittee to get your voice represented there. And the opportunity with the subcommittee is to tactically mobilize and operationalize some organizing things that then come back to the committee before the board, before being executed. So it's not the intention that the outreach subcommittee will be the 2 designated people doing outreach. It's that they will sort of formulate and create and coordinate with Arlington County staff what our outreach plan is. So in this group right now, I would like to talk about our outreach goals. Initially being introduce ourselves, 1, and what does that look like, and 2, to whom. So that's a conversation we can't have in subcommittee, right? Is how are we introducing ourselves and to whom? And then who is interested in spending a little bit more time between meetings facilitating what those opportunities look like specifically and coordinating that outreach. And that can be as a supporting role, that can be as a liaison, or that can be in a leadership role. In the initial phases, I'm gonna plan to be involved with the subcommittees just for continuity, but I would like there to be subcommittee leadership so that over time it becomes a little bit autonomous in the like tactical manner.
One other functional piece. What's the difference between communication and outreach?
Okay, so communication and outreach I had on a previous slide, meetings and meetings ago, but communication, we're gonna coordinate two different elements. Internal to our group.
Yep.
What are our communication protocols for things like if we have a liaison to an external group?
Yeah.
How do we get a report out from them? Or what is our protocol for Martine? Hey, ABC News 4, you're a COB member. What do you think about blank? How do we handle that? How do we handle requests from the media? Like creating a sort of functional protocol so that no one speaks on behalf of this group without a shared messaging, or if you end up wanting to speak on an issue because you have a departure from the COB's sort of whatever, how to caveat that you're, so developing some of those protocols. I think the reason for the distinction is communications will require Arlington County staff to facilitate much more specifically, like we want to send a text alert that the MOU is available for public review. That protocol has to get coordinated through the county so we can get access to their distribution. Outreach, we probably have a lot more autonomy directly correlated to our willingness to help organize. So for example, the anniversary reception, luckily for us, we didn't really have to do anything to make that happen independently, but would we want to hold library meet and greets or farm market meet and greets, or this group asked to hear from us, who are the 2 members that are going to go and do that? We don't really need to coordinate that for our independence, right?
Gotcha.
So that being the distinction, there are some things for which we are strictly dependent on Arlington County staff resources, and we really, for that purpose, need to align with their protocols. But to maintain our independence and our accessibility to the public independently, our outreach, should we be willing and able to autonomize, we can do that so that they have direct access to us through lots of different channels. If somebody calls one of the 8 of us, Gary, to your point, and says, you're my neighbor, you're on the COB, I have this complaint, we can bring that here and say, hey, I heard from so-and-so, and that doesn't need to necessarily funnel through the county because we want to be able to have that independence. Is that distinction logical to everyone?
Yeah. Yeah, I think to a
Yeah,
To a degree.
I mean, there's not a lot of
Certain
us,
point.
you know, there's not a lot of us, and I think that, you know, let's give it a shot and could fall in. Communication's a must, and I think you hit it very nicely. There's kind of this functional responsibility that we have. We have a report due to the board.
Mm-hmm.
We have policy reviews and updates that are very important from national, state, and local to pay attention to. We have a budgetary review mandate alongside the police department. So there's some functional pieces,
Mhm.
and then there is this communications piece of community, particularly community outreach, which is great. And broader communications within our own community seems, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Julie,
Think
one
we're
other thing to your point. To me, one of the big pieces in communication is to coordinate our talking points and themes that will feed into the outreach. But you need some people that are kind of, and they're gonna change. I mean, during the year, certain milestones or certain things, you know, what are our key themes and talking points? Because we all need to kind of be on that same thing. And then as things adjust, I think one of the things this committee will bring here is when do we need to change? What is our thing? You know, to your point, they're just doing kind of that work. Maybe, hey, here's some recommended things. But I think from your point is bringing that here, and here's where we agree. And then that will feed into the outreach and some of the other things. Is that how you see that?
Yes, absolutely. And the talking point specifically being a value add of coordinating with the county. The county employs folks with really strong, specific background and expertise in developing that. And we want that guidance, but we don't want to be beholden to what the county wants or doesn't want us to say.
Yeah.
So by creating that interface deliberately, we can be as structurally sort of aligned with their protocols and maintain our independence, that if what we want to say is what we want to say, that's, you know, again, we want to be as collaborative and proactive as possible without glossing over that we have a lot of strong, valuable county resources at our disposal.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, at some point, I don't know if now is the time, but I mean, I think it'd be helpful to talk about what an outreach might look like. You know, like who do we want to reach out to, and what would that look like? Would we have a little presentation of where we are as a board and what our authorities are, and then open it up for back and forth? Or, you know, I mean, I think at some point before too long, we'd have to sort of structure that. What would you know, maybe it's an hour and we take the first 20 minutes and describe, you know, what we do, and then see what the back and forth is. I mean, we are to an extent limited prior to the readiness resolution. So but you know, we can still say we expect that to be put in place, or it will have just been put in place, and kind of go through our authorities that are in the ordinance. And just, I think they'd be structured differently depending on where we are. The first couple might be really just exploratory. Here's who we are, here's what we have authority to do, what is of interest to you. And then maybe, you know, later in the summer, it's a little different. Like we've started to do certain work, or, you know, we're seeking information on, again, ultimately, I think outreach is going to be listening. I mean, hopefully, mostly. But we have to have some sort of agenda that we would, anyway, so, yeah, no, I mean, that's an important thing to do. I mean, I'll be interested to help with that, for sure.
So I think your question, who are we talking to and what are we saying, is what I want this. We've got 5 more minutes or more, depending on our flexibility, but we can go introduce ourselves to anyone right now.
Yeah.
Right? It could be requested, it could be requested by a group, or we could, knowing a group who's interested, go do that. So because we are a nice cross-section of parts of the community, I want to hear from, like, we have had every meeting we've had, except honestly until this point, we've had at least one member of the public listening. We haven't had much like hand raising, questions, comments, clarification.
Yeah.
So our baseline is we haven't had much public involvement given the status quo. We do know of some stakeholder groups who are interested, but separate from the status quo, are there groups that we feel, I think we want to create a list for an initial outreach email. That was my first idea. Maybe we send an introductory email to a very broad cross-section of folks that we could all contribute to that list and say, we're initializing an outreach campaign. We'd like to tailor it to the folks who are interested and who have needs, not just, you know, put it up on a website. Please feel free to reply with your interest in, you know, general updates, us specifically talking to your, like, would you like to just passively?
Yeah, exactly.
I want to receive information. I would like you to come speak to us. I have a specific concern I would like to address, or I know of someone else who you should be including in this outreach.
Right, yeah.
So that was an initializing idea.
You have a newsletter too.
Newsletter.
Yeah,
So I like a good goal, because that was your first question. I think, I see the very first goal for outreach being community engagement. And then through community engagement, we have a lot of really milestones that we want to get through and objectives and milestones throughout the way. Newsletter, fantastic. A media strategy. We want to work alongside Arlington County Police Department for joint community police events.
Mhm.
Those are happening. I'm not really paying attention to it as closely as I should. So that, I mean, there's something with our training team, which will correlate there, but I think if we have a team paying attention to those so that we have a idea of, one of us or two of us or all of us are paying attention to that, especially the big ones like, which will be here soon, National Night Out and the ones we participated last year. So those are a few things I think that are some easy wins.
early wins.
And early and easy. I love them all.
Great.
Great.
Quick victory.
Quick victories.
One thing that I don't remember which events I went to, where the police events, people had tables, and at some point, we're gonna wanna have tables at those events. I don't know if we could, I don't see why we can't do it before the readiness resolution, because that's just like, here we are.
Oh, we absolutely can. I think introducing ourselves and inviting people to participate is sort of our first goal. Make sure everyone we think would be interested is aware of us and feels and has access to talking to us directly. Introduce, invite, introduce, invite.
Now, here are the silly things we need, like pins, t-shirts.
I was gonna say, you're on the right path.
Okay, wait. I wanna
You're on the right path.
I wanna hold that thought because I do think visibility is
Forget
key.
cupcakes, they're gone.
Need
I think visibility is key.
Need a branding strategy.
But
I
I wanna-
absolutely agree. Communication.
I want to keep us
Committee.
on our agenda because I think we all have an interest in crawling our,
Admit.
Christopher. So I want to just take a step back and say, if our goal to engage the community, our early goal of making sure we comprehensively and warmly engage the community is to introduce ourselves and invite them. And then over time, like build visibility, build targeted outreach, all that stuff. Is there anything we haven't talked about? And is that like in sort of initializing, is it okay if what we populate is a spreadsheet where each of the 8 of us can put in minimum who we think should be included in that outreach?
Yeah.
As a starting point, I pulled from the list of groups officially associated with Arlington County. I down selected from that group who I think has an interest. So I can include that raw list in case anyone wants to just double check. Obviously, I could have missed folks, but we can use that as a base for saying we want faith-based groups, we want neighborhood groups, we want criminal justice oriented groups, we want juvenile groups, we want mental health oriented groups, and like creating that very broad cross-section of initial outreach. And is that an acceptable first step? Any?
I think that sounds good.
Yes.
Okay. Second, we have a draft outreach plan. It's from ages ago. I think it predates Charles, so I will make sure you get it separately and can review. It's old and probably needs new life. Who is interested in participating in outreach coordinating activities outside of our regular meeting times and the outreach subcommittee? Because we can do it. Martine, okay, excellent. Maybe we'll end up with a race chart of our subcommittees, but for now, I think we can deal with, we can maybe refresh and update that document, populating it with the discussion from tonight, and get that as a draft back to the group for review before the next group meeting. And I'm gonna ask everyone, I'll send out the Excel spreadsheet for adding other groups or points of contact.
Do you want to also potentially put a list of upcoming events that?
For us
we
or
might-
for?
That are
Oh, yeah.
happening,
Okay,
that we might want to try to attend or, reach out to whoever's organizing and say, hey, we'd like to put a table or something.
excellent
It's a
idea.
good example. I mean, we have next month, the grand opening for this building.
Yeah,
I mean, there's gonna be a whole bunch of people here.
okay, I think that's a good idea. Maybe what we'll do is we'll have an outreach, don't hate me for this word, matrix, and we'll have sheets. And one sheet is our preliminary outreach list. Another sheet is gonna be who responds to us and how they responded. This will all be internal. And then a catalog of upcoming events and who wants to staff them, so that if somebody says like, I think it's, critically important that somebody go to the Virginia Hospital's mental health center opening, but I can't go, who can go? We can coordinate that way. I did, by the way, attend that plan overview, and that recording is available. In general, the update is it's in planning phase. It will be a great facility. In theory, we will see it come to fruition, and we might.
It's supposed to be pretty soon, isn't it? I thought it was a couple of years or less. No?
Oh yeah, but soon, a couple of years and soon.
Oh, okay, well, I'm sorry.
To me, soon is like Q2.
Oh, no, I'm amazed that it's less than 5
Okay.
years away.
The other element of outreach that we'll bring back to the group, we're a little bit over time, but is liaisons for specific groups that we think. So in that outreach group, a next conversation I'll make time for on an agenda is, who do we need to be actively monitoring or engaging with? Who wants to do that, and how are we gonna integrate that? That's all I had on outreach. The general updates are gonna get subsumed by the anniversary, which is wonderfully organized by Ian and Mummy. We've got it coming up next week. Does everyone know when and where it is? Did everyone get the invitation?
Yes.
Stellar. Anyone not get the invitation, doesn't know where it is.
Oh, I thought I stole one already. I guess I didn't. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, you like, wait.
No, I was just wondering if you had it.
Oh, yes. So what Ian's handing out is just a paper kind of flyer for you guys just to see now, but I printed a bunch of them, so hopefully you guys can take a few extras with you, and if there's like places around the community that you think people might want to, see that information, or it would be helpful for them to see that information, then please take a couple and stick it up wherever you think is necessary or appropriate. We've also listed it on the COB IPA website as an event. It's been pushed out to the county listserv as well as inside Arlington. And we also pushed it out to the people who have signed up for the new feature on our website, where you can sign up to get alerts from the COB. I think Ian was telling me that there's like 50 people on the listserv as of now, so yeah, right?
That's suggestion.
Yeah.
You can post it to next door.
Oh, that's actually very true, yeah.
That's why we have you here, Martin.
Yeah.
This is why we're here to have you on
Because
outreach.
who really is, I don't have that. Does y'all have that?
A lot of people do
This is why
that.
we
Yeah.
need.
A lot of people do.
Wow.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's an excellent idea. We have that in an electronic version as well. So we can email that out to you all as well as the e-guide. I'm not sure what's the best format for the app, but just let us know what you need, and I'll make sure to get that over to you. So just wanted to highlight some of the ways in which we are trying to get this information out. As Julie touched on, this is a really big, momentous occasion that you all are reaching your 1-year anniversary, and it's literally on the 22nd of March, which happened to be a meeting date. So I was like, we can't let this occasion pass I know that we've been, very training intensive and focused on getting the MOU and all the readiness requirement stuff taken care of. So we haven't had a chance to formalize the committees that you guys are talking about now. And I envision that in the future, community engagement events will be led by you all's outreach committee, and then me and Ian will just help to kind of execute them. But just kind of like given capacity under these circumstances, I wanted to at least make sure that we had a space reserved and, didn't let the occasion pass. That being said, I would still love to get input from you all in terms of any possible things that you all want, like objectives that you all want to have for the meeting or format for it. I envision it kind of being kind of like an opportunity for you all to meet and greet with members of the community and kind of talk about what you've done over the past year, and also an opportunity to receive feedback from the community directly about how they envision you all impacting the community so that you can shape some of your work around that as you move forward. I also heard, I think, some kind of ideas around some sort of like presentation, or if any of you would like to speak. The agenda and format of it is definitely very flexible, so I wanted to just open up the floor in case anyone has any ideas, whether it's now or if you have any ideas afterwards. Just let me know and we can figure out what the kind of program should look like.
So to kick off that conversation, we can distill some of our annual, like our year-end report updates about the beautiful training curriculum we executed under Jim's leadership. Don't do that, it was real. We can have an introductory slide to say who we are. That will be everyone's chance to edit their bios, which we have draft bios from what first went out. I'm gonna send those to you tomorrow. And
But they sent us, but we've also sent you guys.
yeah, we have some bios updated. Some of them we don't. So where we don't, we'll have Dan's inputs that we had a year ago. And maybe some people's lives have changed since then and they want to update them.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is if anyone wants to speak, or if they want something in writing represented in a presentation, if anyone wants the opportunity to say why the COB is important to them, or why they got involved, or what they feel we're in progress of doing. Does anyone have any input on what that should look like while we're here?
Without a doubt, it's important, I think, to highlight our training, cumulative training, the curriculum, the effort and time to paint this picture of the amount of time and effort we put towards this voluntary work to bring, I think, a sense of credibility to our passion for this board and service for the community. So with that said, I was going to bring up just a quick formality. Dress, are we all formal, like suit tie for this event? Do we?
Ooh, I'm always the wrong person to ask about that. I would say
That seems a little
civic.
Is that a little too formal?
casual.
Casual?
Civic,
I
what
brought it
do you
up.
got civic casual?
I brought it up because
You're gonna start a whole new thing.
if we are still having to get headshots, that maybe we could do headshots.
Oh, can everyone attend on the
That's
22nd?
a good point, but maybe we could also do
Can
headshots if we
anyone-
were gonna dress
Can anyone?
more than we would for one of these, then.
I will be there, even though that is my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Oh,
And
you
now
guys have a birthday cake.
Now,
The party didn't have a cake, now the party has a cake.
Birthday
Happy birthday
cake
cake
agenda.
to the agenda.
Can anyone not attend at all? Anika? Okay. Is there anything you would like for us to represent on your behalf? Any specific points? Okay.
So to your point on dress, I don't know if we talked about that before one time, but, yeah, I want to be professional. I kind of think like this business casual thing. And I'm thinking about the whole constituency, some kids, man, oh, that's a COB, I don't want to talk to him, he looks like authority. I don't know, that's just my general thing, just kind of
That's why I like civic
look professional,
casual.
but
Yeah.
civic.
Probably not
right,
jeans
civic
and
casual.
sneakers,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
otherwise.
exactly.
Just
Yes.
like, want to set the stage, so.
Okay. Before we leave, can we we have a backdrop for a photo for once. We can take a group selfie, just so we have something for the slide deck. Okay, in addition to that, I think we'll end the COB's input, our portion of the input with, year in progress, what we did, what we're doing in training, who we are, look ahead, outreach.
I think you're gonna have to give a 5-minute of what is a community oversight board.
Yeah, oh, of course.
We're gonna have like,
Yeah,
no
yeah,
idea
yeah.
what the heck that is, okay.
Of course. Well, and what is the hybrid model, and why are we doing it, and how does that land? For the look ahead,
She would,
well, the hybrid model. So how does this all fit together? The COB piece is one half of a hybrid model that's the wonkier of the two. Mummy, if we could all have your experience, capabilities, and momentum, we would be farther.
Oh, you have the dedication.
If we only
main
had your headshot, we would be farther. But we're gonna corral
If only we
those
could schedule a
inputs.
headshot.
So I was staring this at, I'm showing up the community center, we could,
Okay,
beautiful spot, there's a garden in the back.
we're gonna get
Take a photo.
a lot of those inputs for the look ahead, besides what we've discussed, outreach, policy review, preparedness, readiness. Is there anything that for those of us who will or won't be there, we want to highlight or prepare for a look ahead? What anyone who may not have joined us previously, they see this, they come, this is the first they're hearing about it. We tell them what it is, what we're doing, how we're doing, who's doing it, and what the look ahead looks like. Any points of contention or excitement besides outreach and building this? Okay. In that spirit, send that my way after Martine tells us no.
So the last question I guess this is probably obvious, but communication, well, that includes media stuff as well. Okay, that was.
Interviews, press releases, yeah.
The only other thing I wanted to say about the committees is that, I don't know what, you all want to call this, certainly up to you all, but you probably want to have some sort of formal structure or committee that handles, I think someone raised it, I think it was Jim, complaint intake, but also writing your investigation reports. Or annual reports, or just like a writing, whatever your writing requirements are, someone that might handle either doing the writing or delegating it to certain members of the committee. But I was just thinking that might be something that would be really helpful for you all in executing the work.
Okay, I have reports down in the queue of committees, but as I said, I want to initialize them as we have a specific use case. So here's what I'll do. In the same matrix that we have stakeholders, I'll put subcommittees, and we'll differentiate them by those initialized and those proposed, so that, something that we have waiting in the wings, we can kick off at any time. But we want to keep, we're going to end today by 8 p.m. We want to keep these consolidated and short, but we want to be functional, and we want to be collaborative. Everyone should be speaking more than me in subsequent meetings. So we want to have dialogue. One of our previous meetings, we had a lot of opportunity to sort of compare and contrast. Do we understand both sides of each sort of idea? That's where we want to get to. I think we're getting much closer to that. Reporting being key for both our annual requirements and our individual investigations. Those may not be the same people. And I think the great benefit of subcommittees is they don't have to recur. They do have to have a functional purpose, and they do have to conform to the rules that we showed in the last meeting about virtual participation and blah, blah, blah. So I'll send those slides to refresh. And I'm going to send the Excel spreadsheet for organizing our preliminary inputs on who we should include in our initial outreach, what events upcoming we want to staff or represent, subcommittees that we want to initialize and keep going. And in those, I'll just invite you to put your name if you want to be consulted for review, you want to participate in the meetings, or you want to lead. And that way we can make sure that, you know, I don't have time for more meetings, but I have plenty of time to review things while I'm in my own other meetings. That's helpful, right? And if there are other roles or other, you know, internal coordination mechanisms, we want to do that too. I'm most excited about how much this board in the last year has adapted to heavy training requirements and meet and greet and information processing to difficult dialogue management. And I think we have lots of opportunity to keep sort of changing the shape of our operational activities to meet the specific task at hand. For general updates, I don't have anything else. Do either of you have anything else?
Don't, Mommy, do you have any?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we completed our procurement period for the intake software. So we completed the award and now we are just finalizing the contract. So the complaint intake system should be ready to kick off within the next couple of weeks, but we created a kind of interim form to use for complaints and compliments or commendations that we can use in the interim if we're still formulating the software. So it's a civil company that I've spoken to you all about before. They're live in Charlottesville, Philadelphia, and I want to say San Diego as well, if you wanted to take a look and see what that looks like. You probably have some information about it in your email as well, but if not, just let me know. So that's up and coming. And
Well, we do have a sense of when they'll actually be ready. I mean, when that process will have a completed complaint process stood up. I mean, is it like a year or is it 6 months?
It's usually about a 6-week process to create and design the software. The longest piece of it was honestly like the internal like county structure of going through the formal process of doing the procurement and all of the investigation that had to happen behind the scenes to figure out whether it was something that we could build internally or if we needed an external product for it, and then figuring out like what type of storage capacity we needed and different things like that.
So nobody else is using it in the county right now?
No, nobody in Arlington County is using it.
Yeah, I remember you said it was pretty good. It was pretty good software though.
Does it also come with a training piece?
Yeah, all of you will get trained on it and you all have access to it. And members of the community will be able to follow their complaint or their compliment through the process. And then it also have a data dashboard feature where we can figure out what kind of information we want to have publicly facing just as like a raw data component. So lots to come with that, but I just wanted to let y'all know that process is finally moving. So yeah, that's great. And then now that we finalized the retainer agreement, as I said, I will pass along our draft MOU to your outside counsel to review and make sure that you all have the opportunity to ask any questions vis-a-vis, I would guess, Julie. If there's any other issues or anything like that you all need to work through with outside counsel, just let one of us know. And I highlighted earlier that closed session should be one of them that you all talk to about your outside counsel in the near future. I think that was it for me as far as general updates. And we did mention last meeting, I am a little foggy on my memory because that was an urgent care, but you did talk about the listserv component and where to find it on the website, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
And if you need a refresher, it's just right on the main page and on the right-hand side, where you can just input your email. And we didn't announce it to the public, but 50 people had already found that and signed up on their own board. So people definitely are interested, and we sent out this invitation through that listserv too, so people are.
They all signed up.
A couple of them did after we sent it out, so.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Goodbye.
Exactly.
Okay, I think the civic portal, civil portal for complaint intake and the listserv will be integrated as part of our initial outreach. So I am gonna send out that matrix for everyone's participation. We are gonna draft the initial, we're gonna update the plan and draft the initial email from us to folks. But we will circulate that for group review and approval, and we'll figure out the right timeline. That won't go out without everyone saying, I love this, or this is terrible, or you've missed a key feature, or I would never write this sentence. So again, the subcommittee's not meant to take decisions out of this group just for logistics. Other general updates, any additional input, issues, ideas, concerns, excitements? What's everyone wearing to the ball gowns or not civic casual?
I want an
presumably?
opportunity to take out the tuxedo.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
We need to have a gala.
We
Yeah.
do.
It's
We
gonna
will.
be
We
10
will.
10-year gala, diamond gala. With that, I'm gonna ask that since we have 18 minutes before we're technically supposed to adjourn, see if we can't go off of the public. We'll adjourn the meeting and then see if we can't take a group photo. Somehow, no,
I gotta go, I can't do it today. I'm going through a crisis right now, and I told Ian that I was just coming in to make sure I can get the vote. but I-
totally, okay.
All right.
Having addressed all the agenda items, we formally adjourn. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the public. Thank you for all of our online participants.
See you later, guys.
Bye, Annie.
Good night.